Alright, welcome back to Case Closed, Anime Review Episode 148. This is reviewing the newest episode of the anime, which is episode number 1036, Whiteout, Part 1, and the 1086 chapter manga. Now, Whiteout itself is another anime original episode. Wow, this series has got a lot of anime original episodes. And I'm not all that surprised due to the fact they just wrap up a story arc just a week prior. Yep. Yeah, and in case you're curious though, which one was it? It was the Shogi arc. Yes. Excuse me, it's 4-parter, which... Here's the thing with this one. Like, this was by far, of all the manga arcs I've reviewed so far, that was one of the more better arcs. It wasn't boring, where basically it was like one element basically was interesting, but that was a really good arc. In the case of Whiteout, they do in fact have to take the boys in here. At least they mention the reason why the Hyper is not in the episode. Apparently she doesn't like the cold, she just likes to stay home. At least they freaking remembered her, because a lot of the time when she doesn't show up, it seems like though the writers tend to forget she exists. Which is kind of an irritation. Like, this character is part of this group, and half the time, when she's not in the episode, they completely forget she exists. So the four, along with Agasa, decide to drive out to do some skiing. And they just happen to come across, just by sheer coincidence, two guys trying to get their vehicle out of the snow. And it turns out these two guys, the older gentleman is a president of a medical company, company makes medicine, and the other one is a doctor. I'm like, okay. And they just met them. And then, of course, they mention the whole thing. Well, the guy asks Ami about her name, and of course she gives it. And that kind of plays a small role into the episode itself. So, while the kids decide to go skiing, he goes skiing a couple times. Second time, without Agasa, because he was like sore. And then we see the guy named Ishin, where he goes out with the doctor. No, not Doctor Who, just a doctor who's there. Like, can't you just officially use my medicine at your hospital? He's like, no, because basically I don't like the side effects of the damn thing. So he ends up fighting him and stabbing him in the freaking chest. And Ami just witnesses this. She is shocked to see a murder. As far as I can tell, not the first time she's seen a dead body per se, but yeah, this basically did shock her. So she explains to everybody what happened, and then of course Konigo gets some adult officials, and they don't believe them, despite the fact there's an actual witness to the crime. And I'm thinking, you can't bother to go check and see if the kid's lying. You just assume the kid's lying just because it's a kid. Well, that's the main trope with this series. The kids say stuff, and a lot of the time, the adults do not listen to them because they think they're lying. Because they're kids. Instead of, verifying it. So, they run off, and then the guy who apparently has got two associates with him starts chasing them down. And of course, they run, and of course, they're going down a hill. And of course, Kono points out, though, despite the fact he's on a ski mount, he is not wearing ski clothes. He's wearing normal winter clothes. Because he went hunting. And you're probably thinking, why the heck would he be up here if he did not here to ski, if he's here just to basically just go hunt? Yeah, despite that Kono points out obvious things that are completely true, these adults there don't freaking give a damn. They're written to be so stupid. And then they run away, because that's the only option they have. Just to go get a gossel so he can contact the police. And it's downhill, but the sled that Micho and Ami are basically riding gets off course, and they have to basically... And of course, Micho basically blames himself for this. Despite the fact, Kono points out, though, it's not your fault. It's the fault of the bad guy. So walk around a bit, and then just by sheer coincidence, they just find two random guys just middle of nowhere. And Conan figures out, though, because of a phone call, at least they bring up the episode, where call somebody, and apparently these two must be associates. And yeah, they turn out to be true. And apparently the guy basically really wants to kill Ami. Oh, by the way, he claims he knows them, and like, oh yeah, these kids once accused me of being a kidnapper, and they all point out though they just met him just that day. They barely know him, so he's the one lying, not the kids. Yeah. Then of course they just happen to come across the cabin, and the episode ends with the old man and his two associates, who, by the way, they were stopped briefly by a sled full of snow, which they use that sled to knock snow off a tree to bury them. But lucky enough, basically, they're perfectly fine. And lucky enough, the old man just taps their head like, oh yeah, and of course they really want to kill these kids just because one of them witnessed them kill a doctor. Yep. Damn good episode. The only thing I don't like about it is the common thing of, oh, the adults think the kids are lying, despite the fact they could easily just verify what they're saying. They could say, hey, little girl, where did you say you saw this murder? I'll go check it out. You could have done that, and this could have been done with. Nope, these people are written to be so stupid. And wow, I would not be surprised of next episode, which airs by the way this comes out. I would not be surprised if the police basically yell at these two for being stupid and not verifying what the kids are saying, instead of just assuming they're lying just because they're kids. Look, if these kids say something, how about verify it? That's all you gotta do. Verify it. It's so simple. And yet these adults are be so stupid. Alright, now, that's the only thing I like about the episode. It was a good episode nonetheless. Alright, now moving on to the newest chapter in the manga, The Recollection of 18. Which is kind of interesting, the fact that it's called this because the last chapter was called The Sufferings of 15. And this is part 2 of the story. Yes, part 2. Starts out with Jungo basically, being identified. Yep, it's Jungo. Like, are you his younger brother? Like, don't refer to me as his younger brother. Just call me Jungo, police officer. And of course, Chaya's there. Yep. Of course, they're happy to see her. And then the police show up, and it's Takagi, Sato, and Maguire. Of course, it has to be these three because they're in Tokyo, so why the heck not? So basically, they give details about the murder, and of course, they talk to the three guys outside. The first guy is a president of a company, IT president. The other one is basically wealthy and basically a lazy bum, and the other one is a critic. So they easily point out though that the inspector had just entered it, and of course they basically prove, yep, he was definitely not the person responsible for the killing. And Koda's already, yeah, he does this a lot in the series. He finds something. Koda cut. Look at the table. And look how Sato's not the one to be so stupid. Like, oh look, it's a popper. Apparently popping the party. And Chiso basically comes up with a very interesting theory where he was at the table, someone underneath the table, and use that to shoot somebody to kill them and frame whoever was there. Interesting theory, like other man. But basically does. Yeah, apparently there's never a gun, and of course points out though the warning gun was real. Of course, get details, and of course, they all go home and they want to do stuff, but they have to stay there. I love all the dialogue here. There's a lot of dialogue, and of course they interrogate them one at a time. Yep. And Koda is apparently listening in on the conversation. He probably planted a bug on somebody to listen to the conversation. And eventually look at the guest list, and then we see the inspector walk up to Chero, and then he slips, and it looked like he was about to hit the bottom of a glass, and look up Takagi stepped on it, just to be sure. Just to make sure he does not stab at the damn thing. And Chizuko remembers about her brother. It was the one who met with blood, and not you, you know. The glass shards. That's what they were. Okay? Yeah. And that's why I think he's got a shard in his shoe. And of course, basically, Sato would worry about Takagi. Takagi's her boyfriend, so of course she would worry about him. And she's like, that was the same dangers Jinbei faced. And I love the little funny thing with the mask, like, the idiot fell over with me before you know. She'll take us home before you being smit with you. She is a beautiful woman. And I like the fact she brings up her brother. Yes, her brother, who was killed by a freaking bomb. Yes, she along with another person who Amuro knew when he was in the police academy were killed by a bomb. I think he was previously dating Sato. It'd be interesting to talk to Sato about Jinpei. That would be interesting to say the least. I mean, just the previous arc, we had two people from Two Promises basically where he actually, I think it was Yakumoto, was talking to the handsome inspector, where I don't remember the guy's name, where apparently he actually was an old playmate of his younger brother. And the fact he looked exactly like him. I thought it was him, but nope, it was his brother. Yeah, this is going to be interesting to say the least for the next chapter. But wow, really good stuff here. Yep, I get this chapter a 10 out of 10. And I don't think we're done just yet, per se. And I pray to God this arc is not wrapped up with the next chapter. Please, love of God, can we extend this for a couple more chapters? Can we have more than just 3 chapters for a story arc? Let's try to do that, please, okay? So yeah, that's it, sick of you. I'm looking at the time now. I thought I had time to watch Boruto, but I'm gonna look like to save for tomorrow. But at least I got most of my anime done for today. Yep. The next video of tomorrow, which will be Boruto, Attack on Titan, and the anime. I'm gonna start do a first review of it tomorrow. Okay, the video. Bye.